Hey, welcome into the Stinkin podcast alongside my partner, Mike Evans. I am Mark Schlereth. Week 10 is in the books. We soldier forward to Week 11, Mike. The picks are in the books. We'll get into the moneymaker picks. We both went 1 and 2 last week. I don't have them sitting in front of me, but we both suck. So anyhow, we're pretty much tied in the pick department. But Week 10 in the books. What do you think about Week 11, man?
Can't wait. I can't wait. Is this every year we have the game of the year, right? The game of the year.
Sure, yeah.
Does it get any better than a Super Bowl rematch, Philadelphia and Kansas City?
Week 11 when both teams are pretty much living up to expectations. Yeah, no, it doesn't get any better than that. And ultimately, I think you can make a real argument that the Philadelphia Eagles are the number one team, not only in the NFC, but I think you can make an argument that they're the number one team overall in football. Talking about balance, talking about physicality, talking about, like, how do you want us to beat you? Like, how do you want us to beat your ass? You want us to run it down your throat? You want us to out-finesse you? Like, how do you want to get beat today? They've got the opportunity to do that. That's how they're built. Kansas City, however, I think it's funny how things morph with football teams. You know, you win a lot, and eventually I used to go to the dump as a kid. That was one of my jobs, right? I would take garbage to the dump. Did you guys have a dump?
Oh, yeah, we had a dump.
Yeah, so you had to take garbage to the dump. And I would always set, like, throwing objects in the corner of the truck so that I could throw them at seagulls, right? And try to pick seagulls out of the air, right? Because you're a kid. That's what you do, right? And always,
Here comes PETA.
Yeah, always phenomenal. I did, as far as you know, I never hit one. I never killed one. Okay, but anyhow, you're throwing this stuff. But
you were Randy Johnson before Randy Johnson.
Yeah, but by the way, but the seagulls always fly over the garbage, right? They're just picking up garbage. Like, when you win a lot, the other teams are like seagulls at the dump. They're taking your leftovers. They're taking your guys. They're saying, hey, this backup could be our starter. This guy could be and they're paying them huge money contracts. And so you continue to get picked at till you're diminished. Your talent level is diminished. And for the Kansas City Chiefs, they're still winning. One, because I think their defense is phenomenal, right? What they did last year in playing and starting, like, they're playing 6, 7 rookies, and they're starting, 5 or 6 rookies, and they won a championship that way. Those guys are maturing into real NFL professional football players. I think their defense is awesome. Chris Jones is one of the best players in football. But offensively, they're still trying to figure it out. And offensively, they can control the middle of the football field. I think Isaiah Pacheco's in a really nice piece. But, it's Patrick Mahomes and it's Kelsey. And I think when I look at them, I think this, what's the kid's name, Rashee Rice? Like, I think they've got to do their best, maybe not in this game, but their best here down the stretch to develop a receiver who's dependable, who that can make big-time plays, and he seems to be the guy, to me, that's that target guy that you're trying to grow up really fast, almost microwave the process to get him ready for another world championship push.
Philadelphia, how much did they benefit from losing the Super Bowl? Like, we see this in sports a lot, right? Teams have to go to a certain level, lose, come back, go to that next step. You see it a lot in the NBA. But is Philadelphia even more dangerous now because of what they went through, losing the Super Bowl? That maybe they cleared that last hurdle before now they're ready to win big.
Yeah, it's funny because when you argue with Philadelphia fans, they'll argue and
which you love doing,
right? They'll look at their team and basically say, we've got to fire Brian Johnson, the offensive coordinator. We got to fire Sean Desai, the defensive coordinator. These guys aren't, like, you're trying to learn your football team. You're trying to learn what they do well, what they don't do well. The other thing that you're trying to do, especially on the offensive side of the ball, you're trying to transition out of your quarterback spending so much time running the football. You're trying to transition from a complete, almost balanced RPO, let's run our quarterback on the designed, run plays based on the zone read stuff where you're flagging the ball in there, and if the end pinches down, you take it and pull it. Like, they're trying to get away from that stuff because I think ultimately it's smart. I think ultimately Brian Johnson understands this. I think it's also Nick Sirianni understands that's not a long-term recipe for health of your quarterback. In a league where quarterbacks are getting hurt, all the time. This is something, and Jalen Hurts, frankly, has a knee injury that he's been kind of dealing with, and the bye week, I'm sure, did him well. But so they're transitioning and kind of recalibrating their offense at the same time, where people are just, they're what are they, 7-1, 8-1, whatever they are, and people are like, we got to make some changes, and I think what they're doing,
Philly fan, relax.
yeah, I think
relax,
what they're doing,
you're good.
right? I think what they're doing is it's really good stuff, and they're really winning short term with a long-term view.
Right.
That's smart football. That's really smart football. So in the short term, if you can still win games while you're taking this long view of who you are and where you want to go, and that takes time, that takes patience, which none of us have, right? But it takes some coaching and some massaging to get that done.
So while Philly and Kansas City is the big heavyweight matchup, the game I'm fascinated about, Thursday Night Football, we got a really good one. Right. Finally, a good Thursday Night Football match with Baltimore and Cincinnati, two teams that literally a week ago you and I are talking, and we're like, hey, is this the best team in the AFC? Right. Is this the team nobody wants to play in the AFC? And yet both went out and pooped in their helmets. So now we got a matchup between two teams like, okay, which one of you is going to answer? Which one of you is going to respond after, some tough losses?
Something you and I kind of argue about on our show occasionally is, you like to say really stupid things like, points come in the passing game and blah, 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 and right. And where I always say, hey, man, physicality leads to opportunity. Physicality in the running game leads to opportunity in the passing game. And you can make it really easy on yourself when you can dictate running the football and winning the battle of the trenches. That, to me, is football 101. And that will never go in and out of style. That will never change. Last week, I defy you. Go through every single game, regardless who the quarterback is. Show me the team that won the physical battle of the trenches, the team that ran the ball the best, not only with the most yards, but the most frequency. And I'll show you the team that won every matchup last week, regardless of quarterback. And, Baltimore ran the ball really well early, and then I almost feel like, you put it on cruise control thinking we got this thing wrapped, and then Deshaun Watson kind of goes off in the second half. I think it was 14-14 in the second half, and they run the heck out of the ball in the second half, they being the Cleveland Browns, and they end up beating them, whatever the score was, 33-31 or whatever. But the bottom line to me is I still think the Ravens are maybe the most equipped football team in the AFC when it comes to just being able to dictate to the opponent, being physical and wearing you out in a battle of the trenches. Although it didn't pan out last week, I still think they are the team that more than anybody you don't want to face. Because they're going to try to wear you out. And then the off-schedule stuff with their quarterback is impossible to defend. So now Cincinnati's built a little different.
Okay, so then if what I'm hearing is correct, then are you saying that the key for Cincinnati moving forward on a team that's got Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins when he gets healthy, Tyler Boyd, is Joe Mixon?
Well, I think
they need more Joe Mixon.
I think you need to mix in more Joe Mixon.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I think that's part of the formula. But the thing about Cincinnati, and they've been built this way, they're built primarily on, obviously, Joe Burrow, and I've talked about him a bunch. He's all balls. The dude is a great player, threw 2 picks at the end of the game last week, which really cost them, but, uncharacteristic of Joe Burrow. But they're a shotgun football team. When I did a Cincinnati game earlier in the year, and this is when Joe Burrow was hurt, and you could tell that calf was limiting him in not only his ability to escape and movement and extend plays and all that kind of stuff, but it really was it was hindering him, even though he said it wasn't. He lied to me. That's okay. I appreciate that. I did pray for his little baby hands. But he did tell me that it didn't bother him throwing the football, but you could see that on film it just looked like, and I didn't buy his explanation, you could tell that like he's having trouble driving the tough throws, right? Not the layered throws and the underneath throws, but the tough throws when you're on one hash, you got to drive it to the opposite sideline. Like you could tell that wasn't comfortable. And long story short, they were in shotgun pretty much 100% of the time. And I started thinking to myself, because I hadn't done a Cincinnati game, I was like, are they always this way? Mm-hmm. So then I went back and looked at a couple games from the previous years. And they are a shotgun team. They're primarily a shotgun team. Well, here's what happens to you in shotgun. And this is a problem for them. One, it eliminates about 30% of what you can do in the run game. Okay, it just takes it out. The thing that I think more importantly than anything else, it really takes away your hardcore run action, play action plays. So there's a difference when you're playing linebacker on the opposite side of the field, right? Mm-hmm. And the quarterback's in shotgun, right? And he catches the ball here, and then he goes like this and hands it to the running back and then throws it. Even if you're pulling a guard, which is the best way to kind of sell run action out of shotgun. But even if you're doing that, you know what the linebackers have on you from their position? Vision. Mm-hmm. They can see it. It's easy. Mm-hmm. Like, it's easy to see. And you can play from high to low as opposed to low to high, meaning you can take an extra yard off the ball. And if they hand that ball off, there's enough time to close that thing down and still meet the running back in the backfield. Now, go from shotgun to under center. Now, all of a sudden, I'm under that center. Bam, I take that ball, boom, I duck down, and I turn my back to the defense. Can't see the ball. Now I hand it with my back to the defense, and the running back in tight, you can't see. And then all of a sudden, you come out, you dip up, and you stand up. You have to, as a linebacker, honor that. You have to step up. When you step up, you know what happens? That gap between you and the safeties gets really wide. So the intermediate passing game becomes so much more effective out of the run action stuff in under center stuff than it does in gun stuff. And to me, you do yourself a disservice when you spend 98% of your time in gun. They do it because Joe Burrow is that freaking good.
But did you just lay out the fatal flaw of the Bengals?
Sure.
What will keep them from going to a Super Bowl, winning a Super Bowl?
I think it's their fatal flaw. Now, listen, it hinders you, in my opinion, from winning a championship. Could you still win a championship? Sure, because you got Joe freaking Burrow, and you got Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Joe Mixon's a damn good player. You got really, really good players. And let's face it, if you execute and you don't have turnovers yes, you can win any game. They can win any game they line up and play. But when you get into that snot-nosed type of, like, I think those are the hard games for them to win. So we'll see. I mean, they beat Tennessee, who tried to run it down their throat. Mm-hmm. But, ultimately, in a playoff game, Tennessee got 9 sacks, and they still won because Ryan Tannehill decided that he was in the Christmas spirit, and he decided to give the ball to Cincinnati's defense, 3 times?
Well, you're describing the kind of football you play in the AFC North in November and December. And, boy, we got one of those matchups this weekend with Pittsburgh and Cleveland. But the big news, Deshaun Watson, broken bone in his shoulder, undergoing season-ending surgery. And, what does that mean? Because as much as Deshaun Watson hasn't lived up to his billing yet in Cleveland, you're still talking about a guy with a resume, right?
Right.
And now you take him out of the mix for this Cleveland team. What does this mean for them and their playoff hopes?
Yeah, I think obviously, P.J. Walker is a good player, and I think he's a dynamic player. But again, like, how limited are you offensively with the menu that you can present to the defense? How much timing and rhythm does he have with the receivers they have? It certainly hurts you. I mean, I know you spent a ton of money on Deshaun Watson, but I think he's a good player. But certainly he's hasn't established himself as a pure NFL starter, and so I think he's dynamic. I think he's got some good things going for him. The great thing for them is they can still run the ball. They've got a dominant offensive line. They've got a dominant defense. They were a top 5 defense albeit they gave up all those points last week. But, they are, and they have the ability to kind of dominate both lines of
So what am I
scrimmage.
hearing? Am I hearing correctly that, it's not great to lose Deshaun Watson, but it's not a death knell for their season?
I don't think Deshaun Watson's playing at a level that is much more than a backup quarterback. I mean, have you felt that Deshaun Watson? I mean, he hasn't
been a difference maker.
No, he hasn't been. It's kind of like he's not losing games for Cleveland, but he's not winning games for Cleveland.
Right.
He's just kind of managing games. And like I said, in the second half was his best half of football that he's played since he signed that contract with Cleveland. But that's unfortunate for them. For Pittsburgh, it's business as usual.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, we're just going to play defense.
Yeah.
TJ Watt's going to lead our football team. They're really running the ball well. They've got a great balance between Harris and between what's the other kid's name? Warren, yeah. They've got a great balance between Harris and Warren. I like that dynamic nature. Warren is really kind of a little bit of a jitterbug, although he's got power. Harris is just straight up, downhill type of guy. I like what they're doing. I love Mike Tomlin. I just really think they're well coached. And I think one of the things that just resonates with me is they know who they are.
Yeah.
And they're not like, don't apologize.
No.
Hey man, you know what? We're there was an old oh gosh, I forget what the movie was, but it was this show, and it became this truth in advertising thing. And they were like, this guy was having all kinds of success with truth in advertising. Instead of pumping it up really big, he was just like, and I remember one of the ads was Volvo. We're boring, but we're good. That
right.
was like right. And so that's the Pittsburgh Steelers. We're boring, but we're good.
And get ready for another ugly game, right?
Yeah.
If you're a Steeler fan, get ready for another ugly game.
But why? By the way, it's my favorite city to go call a game in, Pittsburgh, because they are the bluest of blue collar.
That's why I'm saying I
love them.
It's like you talk about any other football team winning ugly, and it's almost like something you feel like you have to apologize for. But in Pittsburgh, both the fan base and the team, that's their identity.
Yeah.
And they wear it so well.
Yeah.
So let's go and play some more ugly football. Sign me up.
Sign me up for ugly football.
Yeah.
I'm in. I am in. I'm a Pittsburgh Steeler fan.
Detroit, Chicago. Game you're going to be calling.
Yeah.
This weekend.
Yeah.
Chicago, hey, they got their issues, but
a lot of decisions in Chicago, right?
A lot of decisions.
Is Eberflus the right guy? Is Justin Fields, if he plays, he's had the thumb injury. He's been out for several weeks now. He had a dislocated thumb on his throwing
What would
hand.
you do if you're Chicago and you end up with the number one pick? You got Carolina's pick. You end up with Carolina's pick. Do you stay with Fields, continue to build around Fields, go get him Marvin Harrison from Ohio State, or do you just say, nope, been there, done there, seen enough, let's go get Caleb Williams or Drake May?
Yeah, I think obviously the jury is out, and I think you've got to see incredible growth. The problem has been inconsistency. The problem has been for every one game that he has that you're like, oh my gosh, it's great. Like there isn't that next game. There is not that bad. There's one step forward and it feels like 4 steps back. And like I like Justin a lot. I love his athleticism. He has got to be a more consistent player, and he hasn't been. And so that's what you're going to use these next 7 weeks to find out, right? You're going
See if he can play quarterback.
See if he can actually play quarterback. And I think you've got to put him in those positions because you've got to make a legitimate decision on what kind of guy he is. And I think you have to make
What does that look like? That's a great point. You got to put him in positions to play quarterback. What does that mean?
It means obviously I want you to run the ball. I want you to take care of that. But you've got to have him play drop back stuff, off of play action stuff. You've got to set him up to see, hey, man, can you operate this? Can you operate like without being, hey, let's trick everybody and just win games off of RPOs and read option stuff and let our quarterback become our primary ball carrier? Like you don't find out if a guy can control the game that way. You got to find out if the guy can control a game from the pocket. And so now, part of that is your coach going to cooperate? You're 3-7 right now, and Eberflus, the only other coach in Chicago history, I believe, not to make it into his 3rd season as the head coach was Mark Trestman. Eberflus is finishing his second. I think it's his second year, and so we'll see. You know, I mean, the other thing is, do you want to continue to go down the road with a defensive coach when everything has gone offensive in today's day and age? If you are going to continue to groom either Justin Fields or you're going to go get Caleb Williams, those are questions that have to be answered, Mike.
All right, folks, we've come to the part of the podcast.
Well,
Mark's favorite part of the podcast.
What's
Hold on.
Oh, okay.
Where you get to talk about Detroit's offense. Get ready to smoke a cigarette, everybody.
Dude, they're legit.
Mm-hmm.
They're legit, and they can do anything. I mean, first and foremost, let's start where the backbone of any football team, it's their offensive line. They're freaking good. They're really good. Decker outside is great. Penei Sewell, I've talked to Dan Campbell about him many times. Penei Sewell, Dan Campbell called him by the best football player we have on our football team. The best football player. Amon-Ra St. Brown is a full-grown-ass man. I think he's got 5 games in a row of over 100 yards receiving and does the dirty work. I'm not talking about, let's run a fade. Woo, oh, back shoulder, yee. I'm talking about in-cutting routes, running overs, and just in traffic, catch the ball. And I mean, the guy is an absolute stud. They got a great tandem at running back with Montgomery and with Gibbs. They're tight. I don't know what it is about Iowa tight ends.
Oh.
Dude, if I was running an organization, I would just draft any tight end from Iowa. Give me anyone, like anyone. Sam Laporta is a football-playing Jesse, man. Dude is awesome. But here's what I love. Ben Johnson will be a head coach next year in the NFL. Mark my word right now, the offense coordinator. Here's what I love about them. Like, as I was watching film last night of Detroit, I wrote a note to myself. They remind me of an elite level pitcher. Okay. Let me take you down this road. What is it about an elite level pitcher? The guy's got 4 or 5 pitches that he's got complete command of, can throw them in any count, and they all look the same coming out. And so for me, with Detroit, they will formation your ass to death. 2 backs, 2 tight ends, 3 wide receivers, 4 wide receivers, back into this, back into that, back into. So you're constantly having to make a decision on the defensive side of the ball. Are we going to go base? Are we going to go nickel? What are we going to play? I always got to sing song.
Yeah, that was sing-songy.
It was kind of fun.
Yeah.
So you got to make those decisions, and then they'll go up, down, in, out, can hit any quadrant of the strike zone with multiple plays. So it's like, I mean, 1 minute they throw the changeup, the next minute they throw the curveball, then it's a 97-mile-an-hour heater that backs you up. And Ben Johnson has done such a great job of giving his quarterback options to get into whatever play he wants to get in based on the defense that's presented. And obviously they know, the whole team knows, it's not just calling it blind. They know pre-hand like what they're going to get into based on the defense they see. They ran on, and by the way, Dan Campbell has got Tyrannosaurus Rex nuts.
Yeah.
Because
carries him around in a wheelbarrow.
Dude, he's like Randy from South Park. He's just got his nuts in a wheelbarrow. Dun, 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 dun. The guy went for it on 4th down and 5 last week. And you know where he went for it? He went for it on 4th and 5. They ran an inside trap play on 4th and 5. I mean, it's just like the stuff that he does, he just doesn't care. And here's what he told me, and I love this aspect. He's like, I don't want 4th down to be, ooh, it's 4th down. He goes, I want my guys to be used to going on 4th down. I want 4th down and 2 to be no different than 3rd down and 2 for them in their mindset. And how do you do that? You don't do it by saying, hey, man, it's 4th down and 2. Think of it as no differently than you think of any other play. Right. No, you got the pucker factor going on. I've been there.
Yeah.
There's a pucker factor.
Sure.
So how do you get rid of the pucker factor? You run it on 4th and 2 all the time. Like, right now, he leads the league. He's tied for the lead in the league. The league lead.
Boy.
Oof. He's tied for the lead league The league lead.
The league lead.
Okay.
Tied
for the league lead.
Yeah.
Thank you, buddy. That's why you're the
That's
professional.
what I'm here for.
In attempts on fourth down. Now, he's like I think they're 17th in conversion rate, and Philadelphia is number 1. But Philadelphia is only going for it on 4th and 1 with the tush push or the brotherly shove or whatever, right? And they're converting every one of them. Whereas the Detroit Lions are going for it on 4th and 3, 4th and 5, 4th and there's no fourth down they don't think they can make it on.
But see, his reasoning for it makes so much more sense, and I can get behind it as a football fan as opposed to just analytics. Well, the analytics say this. The analytics say no. The idea that he's saying, hey, I don't want 4th and 2 to be any different from 3rd and 2.
Yeah, let's go.
Let's go.
Let's do our
Not
thing.
because the analytics say it, because
Right. Because that's
what we do.
That's what we do.
Yeah.
Defensively, they've given up in the last 3 games. They've given up 2 times where they've given up 38 points. So they got to fix some things on the defensive side of the ball. But I love this football team. I think this football team can play with anybody in the National Football League. I think they can play with Kansas City. I think they can play with the Eagles. I think they can play and beat anybody in the league.
You know, a few weeks ago, we were looking ahead to the schedule, and we saw Denver and Minnesota on a Sunday night.
Yeah.
And we were immediately, like a lot of people, thinking, oh, they're going to flex that game.
Sure.
And then they decided to leave the game in place, and we're like, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what do you know? This Sunday night in Denver, it'll be the team with the longest current winning streak in the NFL, Minnesota with 5,
right,
against a Denver team that's won 3 in a row, the second longest streak, tied with Philadelphia right now.
Yeah.
They're 2 of the hottest teams in the NFL.
Right.
Denver and Minnesota.
Who knew? And Denver and Minnesota, has done all 5 in a row without Justin Jefferson.
Remarkable.
Who is? I talked to him last week. He's about ready to come back. He was close last week. Off the hamstring.
Do you want him to come back? I know that's a dumb question,
Yeah,
but
it is a dumb question.
well, you've won 5 in a row without him.
I
Is it
know.
cause effect or total
it's
aberration?
It's total aberration. Defensively, they have played exceptionally well, and let me tell you, they're one of the toughest defenses to figure out. Brian Flores not only will bring pressure on any down, play zero on any down, he does not care, but there's also the illusion of pressure. So there's so many times where, they look like they're pressuring. It looks like they're bringing 6, and 2 guys drop out, 1 guy comes from the edge, and they're rushing 3 or 4. They're really good at the zone blitz stuff or the zone dog stuff, where you're not bringing extra guys, you're just bringing guys from different areas, and it looks like extra guys to everybody on offense, and you're playing coverage behind it. So they're really good with that, but they'll also bring 6 guys. They'll also bring 7 guys. They just don't care. So that's who they are. That's what they do. They're really good at it, and they're really tied together. And I just think they're one of the fun teams to really watch on the defensive side of the ball. The Pastronaut, Josh Dobbs, he's been unbelievable. And the connection he has with the head coach has been unreal. They started running the ball a little bit better last week. They got away from some of their zone stuff that they haven't been very good at and went to more of a gap like power and some of those kind of duo type of runs. And that seemed to sit better with them in the rushing game. But Denver's found a formula. Like Denver's found their formula is we're going to run the snot of the ball. We're going to control the tempo of the game. We're going to control the time of possession. We're going to beat you by about 10, 11 minutes in time of possession, and we're going to force you into mistakes. Mm-hmm. And that's what ends up happening. When you are so physical and you control the tempo of a game and you get an opponent's offense to start counting possessions, saying, hey, the normal possession rate is 12, and all of a sudden we're starting to look and it's nearing the end of the first half, and you've had 4 possessions, you start to go, man, we're only going to get maybe 4 more possessions in this game. And so then you start thinking, well, we got to score on every possession. So what happens to you? Well, you quit doing the things that you wanted to do. You quit doing the things that actually win, and you start putting the pressure on your offense to score right away, and you start putting the pressure on your quarterback to take chances that perhaps he wouldn't take if you were in a normal situation. And so you can sit there and say, well, it's unsustainable. The Broncos have had 9 turnovers in the last 2 games, 5 against Kansas City, 4 against Buffalo. And you think, well, you can't continue to get that lucky. Well, luck has the smell of perspiration. You keep pressuring like that, and you keep making sure that opponent is starting to count possessions, guess what'll happen? You'll get turnovers. Those things will come. Those things will happen if you continue to play the game the way they've played the game the last 3 weeks.
Isn't that remarkable? 9 turnovers, last 2 games against Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen, the same defense that gave up 70 points earlier this season in Miami. I haven't seen a turnaround like this
It's remarkable.
mid-season.
I
Can't remember.
had Vance Joseph being fired after that game.
Yes, you did.
I would like to officially apologize to Vance Joseph and Vance Joseph's family on this particular podcast. I was wrong. I was emotional. I was upset. I was embarrassed. I was distraught. Anything that you can add to that, that's about the lexicon, or that's about the depth of the lexicon of my vocabulary. Did I say that right? If I did, tough. You get the understanding. So whatever it is that I need to apologize for, I'll apologize for it, because Vance Joseph might be the best redemption story in football right now, because what had happened, they gave up 3 games in a row where they were averaging 250 yards rushing per game. Per game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I fired him twice, I think.
Yeah.
Vance, I'm sorry.
Yeah, well.
What are you going to say?
All you can say.
What are you going to say?
My bad.
Yeah, my
bad. Are we doing picks or?
Yeah,
All right,
let's
you
do
got
the
you got yours. Go ahead.
No, did you write them down?
No, you didn't tell me what you wanted yet.
Oh, no, but you wrote down the spreads?
I got the spreads. Yeah.
Okay, I see. Let me see your
You
spreads.
can't read my writing though. You always complain about my writing.
I am going back to theme-oriented picks. You know what? I started off this way. I was kicking your ass, and then I fell victim to laziness. I fell victim to picking the teams that I thought were going to win, as opposed to having a theme. And the theme is the key when making NFL picks.
Interesting.
Everybody knows it. It goes without saying. So here's my theme. Go big or go home. I'm taking huge spreads this week. Okay, so here are my first game I'm going to take. Let me see. Miami. -12 to the Las Vegas Raiders. I like Miami, so I'm going to go that direction. Washington, -9.5 over the New York Giants. Danny DeVito is playing quarterback for them. The guy is 5'0". Danny DeVito is not going to beat the Washington Commanders, guaranteed, right here. You heard it here first. And then lastly, San Francisco giving up 11.5 to Tampa Bay. I'm taking the Niners. I'm giving the points. Go big or go home. That's what I'm talking about. If you had any balls at all, you go exact opposite of my picks.
No, I like those picks.
Oh, do you now?
I do,
You
actually.
like the theme.
I
Are
like
you going to
the
come up with a
theme.
theme right here off the top of your head?
I like your theme.
No, you're not.
I really do. Are there any other big spreads that I can jump on? Well, I'll tell you what. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to take Detroit -10 against Chicago.
I like that one, but I'm calling the game,
I know,
so I didn't
so you
want to
can't.
take it.
Yeah, no, I
didn't
get
want
you.
to
I
take
get
that
you on that one. That's so I'm gonna take advantage of that one, and I'm gonna take Jacksonville to bounce back. That was a bad
okay.
loss for Jacksonville. I'll take Jacksonville minus the
I
6.5.
forgot to take. I was going to take Dallas on my big pick. Dallas over Carolina, 10.5. Come on, is it over Carolina?
Yeah.
You got to take that.
Are you baiting me? Are you trying to bait me into taking that?
No, would I bait and switch you?
I think you would.
I take Carolina. Take Carolina.
I'm going to take Denver. I like what Denver's got going on, and I think. Sorry, the Joshua Dobbs story is awesome, but the clock has got to hit midnight at some point.
Okay, can I change my pick?
Do you want to
then?
change one?
I'm going to take. I'm
no.
going to take off Washington. I'm going to go to Dallas, 10.5 over Carolina,
Okay.
and get rid of Washington.
Okay.
Okay.
That'll endear you to all your Washington fans.
Yeah.
Mark, the Hog, everything.
Danny DeVito.
Danny
I
DeVito.
don't trust him. Okay, wait a minute. Let's wait, I'll write these down
We'll-
afterwards.
we'll-
Okay,
we can
I'll
do it.
write
Don't worry.
them down.
We remember.
For everybody involved in the Stinkin Truth Podcast, for Mike, I am Mark. We thank you so much. Make sure you subscribe, send us a note, do whatever it is you do. We appreciate you, and we'll be back with you for a Week 11 wrap-up on Monday. Hey, for everybody involved in the Stinkin Truth, we thank you so much. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure you don't forget to give us a thumbs up. Subscribe to our channel for more content just like this. If you want to see more of our videos, you can also be sure to check out our playlist. Let us know exactly what you think in the comments below. We appreciate you guys so much for being a part of that.
Don't forget to follow us on social media to stay up to date on our latest updates. Links are in the description. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.